but they're all based on the same common core. So they all are compatible with one another. They all understand each other. They communicate with each other without language, by the way. They can communicate by taking blocks of knowledge and just shipping it over the interface. So they kind of have mental telepathy. But everybody can customize what their Sapiens knows. We envision that something we call role models.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Tell us about that.
Well, I think one of the nicest way to put it in a nutshell, and I didn't come across this term, and in fact, I invented the term about 3 months ago and then found that somebody invented it way back in 1986. The idea is compared to, and I set this up by calling it imitation intelligence. People have been trying to duplicate the processes of a human brain. And a guy named Hoagland, a philosopher back in the 80s, said, well, maybe that's not the right thing. Way to go about it. He said, consider synthetic diamonds. Okay, they're actually real diamonds. They have the same perfect crystal lattice, carbon. They are real diamonds, but they're not created by natural means. That's what we mean by synthetic diamond.
Right.
So what we've done, while everybody else has been trying to imitate natural intelligence, we found a way to go directly to the end product, which is knowledge, and synthesize it through engineering means. So we don't have to duplicate. Our approach is completely out of family from what everybody else is doing. But we had to go a completely different place to solve the problem. If you want to build knowledge, and you have to study knowledge. And what is that? Well, it's a model. We understand it's a model. Everybody knows that the problem with machine learning is it can't produce knowledge. It can't produce models of the world.
Right. It can make a prediction with some amount of accuracy.
Well, that's just a statistic. I mean, machine learning will do what you can do with statistics.
Right.
But statistical model is only good for things which are inherently statistical.
Everything else. They're great for politicians to lie to each other.
Right. Exactly.
That's what statistics are good for.
Well, I mean, there was that quote goes back to, I think, Benjamin Disraeli, but Mark Twain used to quote it. He called, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yes, absolutely.
but anyway, yeah, they're good for that. But that's not models of the world. Models of the world, they're not made out of symbols. But you look at a model and you can learn about the world by that model. So in order to build these things, we said, okay, so we look at knowledge and we see it's a bunch of ideas, concepts, and they're complexly related. You see a matrix, a very n-dimensional matrix of concepts, but you can decompose complex concepts into simpler ones. And so the conjecture is then if you can start breaking them down into simpler ones, you should be able to come to concepts or conceptual building blocks that are like cognitive atoms. And if you can do that, can you classify them so that you know which ones will fit together? Can you do like the periodic table of the elements, but with cognitive elements? So it turns out you can, but in order to do it right and make it work, you have to really dive in and build upon the philosophies of epistemology and ontology, and those are practically forgotten. You certainly don't study them when you go to MIT and get a degree in AI.
Yeah,
but that's what we did. That's how. And
so you skip the thought process. So let's create intelligence, and instead of creating intelligence, let's create knowledge, because that's what intelligence is trying to do anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's people have all sorts of notions about the word intelligence means. They conflate it with consciousness and self-awareness and sentience and all those things. But when the rubber meets the road, if you look at how humans define ourselves as Homo sapiens, the wise primate, the intelligent. But what's the really difference? Really, we know stuff. We have knowledge of the world, and knowledge of the world allows us to change the world, and that makes us numero uno on this, in the local environment on this planet, because we have knowledge. So the reasonable, functional cut through the BS definition of intelligence, is it is something, processes that create knowledge. Okay, and if it doesn't create knowledge, you shouldn't call it intelligent, artificial, or otherwise. I mean, that's so ironic. They talk about self-driving cars being AI. I mean, what they're trying to do with self-driving cars is get to the level of a flock of swallows.
Yeah,
we don't call swallows intelligent for that. We call them good flyers. But
artificial intelligence is something I like to talk about. I like to think about and philosophize on. At the end of the day, I don't know how we're going to pull it off, because intelligence today on our planet is 7.5 billion different processors running at different speeds at different rates with a slew of different inputs for all of them, right? So how can one processor know what the other processor even acts like or knows about?
Well, it's processing. It's not the same thing as comprehension, as knowledge, as intelligence. So computers today are computers. They crunch numbers.
Right.
They manipulate symbols. They change one form of information into another form of information. But when you do what we've done and found out a way to endow them with something, a very, very rare and special type of information, which is a model of the world, then you've given them something to think about. And in terms of the information processing processes that are needed to take knowledge and comprehend it, expand it, extend it, evaluate it, computers already do all those things well. They do logic, they do analysis, they do synthesis, they do pattern matching, they do memory matching. In fact, they do all those things better than our brain does, as far as we can tell. All they need is something to think about. They needed that knowledge structure. And that's what we've designed. So we think that we're going to take computers from computing up to something, to thinking machines, non-human thinking machines.
Right.
We call them Sapiens.
Okay. Wonderful. I love it.
And that's what we're doing.
You've created a system, a knowledge base that you can supply it something to think about, and it will produce a unique or correct answer.
Well,
or its own answer.
No, because you're assuming you asked it a question.
Okay.
Most of our sharing of knowledge isn't asking questions. It's making statements, making assertions, sharing ideas, right? We know that we ask questions a lot of time to ensure that the communication was successful, that you understood what I said, so I'll ask you questions about it. But what we do is when you acquire knowledge, and most of the kind of knowledge that we get through language. I mean, let's say cognitive learning. Cognitive learning is when you acquire knowledge. That's the name. As opposed to neural learning, when you acquire a skill, like learning how to ride a bike. That's neural learning. You burn in the pathways and you ride a bike. But a bear can be taught to ride a bike by burning in its neural pathways, just like people. Right. But cognitive learning we go to school for, and most of it comes through language, and it consists of taking ideas and putting them together to create new ideas. But you have to start somewhere. You have to have that critical mass of knowledge in the first place.
Right.
Particularly if you want to get most of this knowledge through language, you have to have critical mass of ideas and vocabulary to go with those ideas to start bringing in knowledge that way. So that's what we've built. We've built kind of that critical mass, that model of the world that's roughly can be comparable in scope with what a first grader knows about the common sense world. And now when they know that, then they can understand the language and they can start putting things together. So if I go to my Sapien, I kind of like talking to a 5-year-old, I say, right. Do you know what a canary is? He says, nope. I say, a canary is a cute little yellow bird. So he says, aha. Starts going in there, bird, I got a match for that. Yellow, I got a match for that. Cute, I got a match for that. I know that is in this context means subclass of, so it creates a new class of bird. So now it's got a new idea. It knows what a bird is. It cognitively learned that. And that's how we get most of what, interestingly enough, because of the nature of our model and our classification scheme, if I came back and asked it then later what a canary was, it says it's a little yellow bird. You think they're cute.
Okay, so it knows that cute's subjective.
Yes, exactly. Because we've classified it according to our, non-periodic table of cognitive ideas. Right. Subjective things can't be a property of, an objective thing. So, and that's actually layers and layers and layers of subtlety in our model having to do that. But the point is that once you can, we found a way of and created tool sets to introspect and curate knowledge from your own mind and convert it into this format that then goes into this computable model in computers.
And then that computer model continues to know more every time it learns something. So it now knows that a canary is a yellow bird that some people think is cute.
Are cute, right? It also knows the difference between yellow as the perception of yellow and the wavelength of light that stimulates that yellow, because that's another layer. It has to, has to be in that model. It's all built. All those things are built into it. So, and then as it gets more critical mass of its model, the other way that we learn is we think about what we already know. And a lot of that has to do with synthesis and pattern matching. You go through and find patterns in your model of the world that, this looks like that.
Right.
And so you create new knowledge. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci was known for, remarking that the pattern of capillaries in a human lung looked like a river delta. Look at that. But that's just things that you can give computers so long as they have something to think about.
Right. Does that model ever end as we're creating it, or as you're creating it?
No, I mean, in terms of, by the way, you wouldn't want to just, at one time we thought, we'll just bring them up to the first grade level and then we'll tell them to go out there and educate themselves on the internet. But that's really not a good idea. For one thing, language as a communications protocol is very slow and it's very lossy. We found that it's better for us to sit down and curate the expertise and more knowledge from our own minds and make it available to integrate it into the model that way. That process will end when we've curated all the knowledge in the world that humans have accumulated since the beginning of civilization.
Right.
But by that time, the Sapiens probably will be adding to it faster than we are down the road. So
yeah, and it's, you're going to have I believe long term, you're going to have the adopters and the deniers, right? People that push this away, people that completely accept it.
Well, sure.
I think one of the beautiful things about intelligence is that at least I hope that a person, as they go through, they can realize that, things that I've thought in the past aren't necessarily true, and I can change those as a human, whereas a machine, that kind of machine learning or algorithm or AI or whatever you want to call it, requires a human then to diagnose that and then go back and check it. Or maybe the new machine learning can figure out that it's wrong as well.
No, Sapiens wouldn't have that problem. I mean, they're really going to set up, and the way they process knowledge is going to be very much like humans do. First of all, of course, as they're learning stuff, and if they're learning it from people, they take everything they learn from people, understanding that person, that unique human brain had a unique world model. Okay, so it's going to understand that there's a difference between, just like there's a difference between things that are subjective and objective, there's a difference between ideas that are established from a body of scientific, process, as opposed to conjectures or a personal opinion or hunches that people have, as opposed to beliefs or religious beliefs or spiritual concepts, metaphors, model, all those different things. Eventually, it will have knowledge of those things and be able to make those distinctions. So when it's putting together knowledge, when it's integrating knowledge from other human beings into its core model with the help of human beings, it eventually got a really good handle on all of that. And in terms of, it will find some things that contradict, that person's that thing. It'll find. And eventually, as it gets more and more knowledge, and it'll, of course, think very scientifically, because we understand the scientific method and we understand why it works. Well, I'm not sure we understand why it works, but we understand that it works. Okay. And we understand, and we recognize a good model when we see it, right? Because it works well. Right. And of course, that's our guiding principle as we build the model of the world for computers. Is utility. Is it going to work well? Is it going to be able to make it understand what people are saying? Is it going to be able to have good judgment and discernment? Is it going to be able to produce results and solve problems that humans find useful?
Right.
Okay. So we're not building it for its own sake. We're building it for us.
Yeah. In the future, do you think that we're going to have kind of one AI model like an Alexa or Google Home that is the standard? Or do you think we'll have a whole bunch of different AIs that are for very specific uses?
Well,
or both.
The latter in a sense. But for instance, our first commercial product that we're working on, we call it the Companion Sapiens. And initially you'll talk to it via an app on your cell phone, and eventually you'll be on the cell phone because our stuff is very, very compact and efficient. But you'll talk to that, but it'll be your Sapien. Okay. It'll get the core model from us. And in fact, every couple of months, it'll get a new core update of more general knowledge, more processing routines, more quote intelligence every few months. But meanwhile, it's yours. It's working for you. It's understanding you. It's trying to learn from you, find out how it can help you better. So in that sense, there'll be as many different AIs as there are human individuals.
Okay. And
then there'll be every company, every organization will have one or more of these things that will be working for them and supporting them. But they're all based on the same common core. So they all are compatible with one another. They all understand each other. They communicate with each other without language, by the way. They can communicate by taking blocks of knowledge and just shipping it over the interface. So they kind of have mental telepathy. But everybody can customize what their Sapiens knows. We envision that something we call role models. And there'll be both role models to support, personal lifestyle things. I'm going to download a role model about how to fly fish on the Potomac from the new Sapiens store, and suddenly my Sapiens is going to be expert in fly fishing on the Potomac. But then we'll have ones for the profession. So it'll be, the chemist assistant or the teaching assistant or whatever you want. So your Sapien will be put together to support you and having all the knowledge. But standing back from that, as we continue, once these techniques are promulgated, people know how to curate knowledge, whether they're reading it from books or from the universities or from their own minds, and they're converting it to make it compatible and computable to sapient minds. Eventually, as I said, all of that knowledge will be available to you sapiens, either to help you at any given time. But it seems to me it also makes sense to put it all in one very large sapien that can handle it in its own mind all at the same time.
Right.
Which something, of course, humans can't do.
I love it. I think it's so much fun to think about a companion AI. And I instantly go to, I can teach this to answer my emails for me.
Of course you can.
To order, if it knows that I'm sad because my house is dirty, to order the maid service to get them out there and clean the house, right? Or at least kick off the Roomba to clean up the floor.
And that's another aspect of it. It knows the difference between subjective and objective, but it's very clear that the sapiens will be able to discern your physical and emotional state,
right,
and reflect that back at you or act appropriately with respect to that.
In this particular model where you have everybody's got their own AI, I could look at somebody and say, you do really, really good with sales. Can you share your sales knowledge with my AI and that will help me train to do that, or answer my emails better, or as a better storyteller, maybe, for instance, right? I can inject
there's two ways
other
of doing
people's
that.
knowledge into that.
Yes, there's two ways of going about that. If it's just a couple of heuristics that the person knows, they can just tell your sapiens, but tell your sapiens directly through English, and the sapiens will never forget it. And he says this about that. But if you really have a well-defined and really expertise about something, then you can go ahead and get our tools, our environment, and you can curate your knowledge into a little role model and put it on the store. So, it's equivalent to what you see all these people on YouTube, with their little how to do this, how to do that.
Right.
But in this case, it's all compatible with each other, and you just go download it directly to the sapiens of the person who's interested in having that knowledge available to them.
That's beautiful. I think it could be the possibilities are limitless.
They are, but and it is exciting. But the most exciting thing, I guess, I would say about it is that this isn't conjecture this time. We've actually built it, and it actually works. You can actually talk to it today. And of course, we've had our challenges with funding, of course. Can you imagine trying to say, oh, well, we're AI, but no, not that kind of AI. No, we don't do data sets. No, what? Never mind.
Right.
We're
changing
knowledge.
The game.
Oh, knowledge. Oh, symbolic people tried that. That didn't work. Goodbye. So we've done 4 years of friends and family, but as it turns out, we've raised about $4 million to get this, and it's past we're in the prototype phase. We're past the R&D phase. But fortunately, one thing that's come along, kind of in response to, I think, Peter Thiel's 0 to 1 problem, is crowdfunding. You can now actually raise a significant amount of money doing that. And
absolutely. And the rules have changed, right? You don't have to be an accredited investor now.
Yeah, that really helps. That was really painful for us.
Yes. A lot of companies, it's really, really hard to get seed round and get started without that.
Well, once the VCs have gone away, and even the professional angels, again, they're all syndicated now. They have their angel groups and their angel clubs, and they all do things by the numbers.
Right.
I talked to plenty of them in my time. So we're going live on I guess I can say this, Start Engine.
Oh, you're going to go live on Start Engine? Do you know the date?
Not yet, but very soon.
Okay, wonderful. And this episode is going to be airing sometime in September of 22. So you're on Start Engine. Keep your eye open for that. And if somebody wanted to learn more about your business or you, Bryant, where could they go today to learn more and maybe get some links to where that Start Engine is going to be?
Well, you can go to newsapiens.com or newsapiens.ai. You can go to mysapiens.ai or .com. And you can go to forwardtothefuture.com, which is my personal blog site.
Wonderful. And we'll throw all those links down here at the bottom so that the audience can see those. They can learn more. If you're interested in getting into the investment on Start Engine, do you know if it's going to be an equity or gift?
It's equity.
It's equity. So you can own part of this new business that's coming out that hopefully is going to change the world. And the first product is this personal companion, right? And I'm sure there's more products and or services that are coming down.
Certainly we're going into the commercial side as well. So yes.
Yes. I think it's super interesting that you're starting with a residential model or consumer facing model out of the gate. And that, Google Assistant did it and Amazon did it, and that they've hit it out of the park. And I would not call their AIs the best AIs on the planet by far.
Well, you've already heard I wouldn't even call them AIs. But,
it is what it is. So,
but yeah, look at the total addressable market. It's everybody who has access to a mobile device. That's over 7 billion people.
Correct.
So yeah, I think that's a good place for us to start. In terms of the commercial side, we'll have to go each line of business because each line of business is knowledge intensive for that line of business. So we'll do different ones, and the first one will probably will probably be space systems, because that'll be going home for me. But that's just the beginning. There's healthcare, there's banking, there's finance. There's all of them can benefit from thinking machines.
Yes, absolutely. Bryant, I've had so much fun talking to you about AI and technology today. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah. Think out of the box about AI. They're humans have this visceral feel for what it means to be an intelligent being, and we are looking for that, and we put it on things even when it's not there. So when you're talking to theory, when you hear about these things, cultivate some skepticism about what AI is and what it isn't.
Yes, absolutely.
It's kind of ironic that the people who have said it's around the corner are right, but they're wrong. They're right, it is around the corner because we're doing it, but they're wrong because it did not come in the way they thought it was. Yeah, I guess in terms of entrepreneurs, one last thought.
Yes.
People say, should I be an entrepreneur? And my answer would be only if you can't help yourself.
I love that answer. That is a really good one, because I scratch my head sometimes. I use the phrase, why are you convicted to be this, right? It's not a choice. A lot of times we feel obligated. It's an obligation to do the things that we do. And
you often end up saying, why me?
Yeah.
But yet there's nothing more rewarding, nothing.
It's a ton of fun. And, the trials that you go through in entrepreneurship or business ownership are tremendous. But when you overcome them, it's so gratifying when you unlock some of these growth things that take you to the next level. It is wildly gratifying. So I agree.
Truly.
With you. Don't do it unless you feel like you have to do it. It's a mission for you.
It's a calling.
Yes.
So, but thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you, Bryant.
Always good to talk about it. I appreciate it.
You have a great day.
You
Take
too.
care.
Take care.
Thanks for watching today's episode of Clicks and Bricks. Get to work.